Greetings, everyone. As many of you may know, my name is Albikirat. That is what I go by in identification with my enacting higher self. I also have a personal profile that many of you guys may or may not follow, where I convey my personality, but Albikirat is for conveying wisdom. And in today's video, I will be talking about authenticity. Now, my experience with authenticity has been a very interesting one. I started off operating in mainly a polarity of masculine energy. And this was in part because of a lot of individuals in general, and in my specific experience as well. Our developmentation of an ego leads us to believing that we have to be a certain personality to fit in or to be established within our life. But what the ego, all that the ego does, is it establishes your position in the matrix so that you may look bold, good, tough, or whatever the case may be in front of others. We are living for the perception of others when we are operating under the ego identity or personality. So authenticity is so important because it connects so much as to why and how you would be living your highest and best life. In order for an individual to only and solely operate in an authentic state, they not only have to have a relationship with their higher self, they not only have to trust, surrender, and be fully reliant on their higher self, they have to have a tamed and dissolved ego, and the person has to love themselves direly. Loving your higher self is loving yourself because your higher self is you. And in this life, per se, the best way in order for us to truly achieve a state of those four things that I just named, it starts with shadow work. It starts with healing the self. It starts with such a beautiful journey, something that will be such a beautiful journey for so many of you who are watching this video. So here's the first thing that I want to talk about. Shedding the ego identity. And with shedding the ego identity comes with healing the inner child. The ego, this is very interesting. The ego, oh my gosh, I gotta stop for a second, hold on. So what I like to do right now is just enter a channeling or a flow state, as I like to call it, and I will have my eyes closed for this. There will be certain times where I won't have my eyes closed for this. This is the beginning of an entire series. This is the opening of the platforms that are accessible to Albikirat. So if you guys see in future videos that I have my eyes closed or not, I may channel both ways. So let's just look forward to that future. Now, the beginning of the shedding of the ego is the healing of the inner child. The inner child goes through experiences, or many of us incarnate to go through experiences where our inner child is told to be suppressed, told to shut up, told to put the personality away, store it away, and forget about it. And as adults, all we want to do is embrace that childlike spirit because that is the key to happiness. Many forms of wisdom that is channeled in many different ways through many different religions, many different texts, people's individual stories. What I'm pointing at here is the world's several and municipal outlets for the expression of what it means to be embracing your inner child. And through many of these ways or things, the main key here is that we shed and we talk to that younger self, whatever age it is that we are, and we heal these experiences. Our heart is very much connected to our inner child. Our heart is naturally and unconditionally loving one. And when we are incarnated into this realm, what happens is that a child is unconditioned of all paradigms, ideals that exist within this world. If you look at a dog, even dogs go into the rest of their life being an unconditionally loving animal. That's why humanity refers to dogs as man's best friend, because it is said that dogs cannot perceive judgment. Maybe they can perceive a threat, but judgment is not one of them, because dogs are not they are sentient beings, yes, but they are not a race per se that is in charge or has domain over the physical world, or are here to change it in a way where we can build or destroy infrastructure, people, places, things, and such. So our inner child is naturally and unconditionally loving them. And our experiences shape how much, how open, or how closed our heart is, which thus connects to how opened or closed to our fully authentic self will be or will convey itself. Oh, girl, this is a little bit interesting, honey. Oh, girl. All right. Kind of contemplating whether I should include the personality clips within channeling this wisdom. Now, shadow work, a great art that many are very familiar with or aware of. Shadow is quite frankly operating within the identity that your inner child has created, opposed to itself through its experiences. So, as the inner child goes through experiences where it is affected in a way that is working against it to keep that heart closed, in reality, which is not per se what we incarnate to do, our souls are aware of the fact that our inner child will go through experiences that will shape it. That is a part of our karma. That is the way we learn in this life. In order to be compelled to be good, you have to be opposed and know what is to be the opposite of good. So in order for you to be who you are in your life, or what your higher self wants you or sees you to be in your future, in your present, because we are the acting self in the future and past. In order for you to attain those things, the higher self is aware that you need to know what it is to be the opposite of that first, in order to get to that desired state and be opposed to what you used to be. That is what karma is. Operating in a state of ignorance to the lesson and then learning the lesson so that you may not act against what you have now learned. Now, it is not our will to suffer, but since this is required, this is what many of us go through within these paradigms or within this matrix, within the 3D world, where we incarnate to be senseless, where we incarnate to be confused, confundeled, and spiritually dead. Now, with the shadow was that personality. The shadow was the ego. The shadow, imagine your higher self watching itself be attacked and be suppressed. That new being that it creates, which is the ego, because the ego is the conditioned self, that new being that it creates is the shadow. The shadow and the ego are two sides of the same coin, quite frankly. Many people use them when they are expressing operating in your shadow and your ego interchangeably. Now, talking to that shadow, working with the shadow. When an individual is acting out of its shadow, what they are doing is that based off of experiences that may have been traumatic, they are perceiving a certain reality that is occurring to them in a manner or scope that comes from the shaping of its experiences. So that shadow What that then allows for the individual to do is ask itself, why am I reacting this way to this situation? Oh, I have anger because of how it reminds me of the way I was treated in a similar situation in the past. And that's why is determined my reaction in this situation. That is the shadow. The shadow allows you to ask deeper questions. That is why it's the most amazing thing and the most amazing key into self-work and self-evolution, to identify and be conscious or aware of your reactions to situations that may be unpleasant or unlikable. Now, since we've acknowledged what is important to work with in order to live and act as the most authentic self, I would like to say that it is not the fastest process to fully accommodate that inner child that has suffered. But in the end, it is all worth it. In the end, it is amazing. The self that you discover and become and continue to grow in loving fully and unconditionally, thus treating your reality and reflections the same. It's amazing. It is profound. And that is exactly why, no, it is not our will to suffer, but to experience such a profound healing journey is absolutely a part of the will of our higher self. Because it is an experience of such where it feels so good that we have finally gotten there. Now, the authentic self that you discover once you heal your shadow, once you figure out why is it that I react this way to certain experiences, or why do I have a perception that is so scoped or shaped a certain way, once you realize that there is a light or a passion for experiences in general that you will begin to have, once you've acknowledged that, yes, my perception is affected by the way that my inner child was treated, the things that you will experience are profound. The way that your life will continue, or the way that your life will begin to unfold, is unprecedented. So, in sum, authenticity can only come, or the authentic self that you discover is something that is up to you to deem. Because a lot of you will be surprised to find out that your authentic self is actually highly intuitive, a supreme celestial being, and your authentic self is the most excited and happy, passionate version of you. It is the most childlike version of you. Imagine how profound and amazing that is. An individual who is highly intuitive, healed, goofy, for lack of better words, entertaining, charismatic. Some people are different, some people are focused, but all of us are meant to connect. So discovering your authentic self is the self that you become is for you to discover.